Good day to you all. This is the beginning of the recording. It's just going to take me a couple of seconds to get the presentation on the go, and then maybe this is the part that you edit out and then show what's coming up in about 5 to 10 seconds to the audience. So just give me a second. And here we go. Good day to everyone. It's a great pleasure to have been invited to speak to you guys at your Living Streets Vision Zero meeting, and I'm really sorry that I could not make it there live via Zoom or in person for that matter, but I will do my best to deliver my message via a pre-recorded video. So I'm here to tell you today about Helsinki's journey when it comes to Vision Zero and how we've been implementing sustainable modes into our transport system. My name is Oskari Kaupinmaki, and I work as the cycling coordinator at the city of Helsinki, which essentially means that I'm a traffic engineer with a master's degree who's in charge of the multidisciplinary implementation of our bicycle strategy. Now, Helsinki, like many other cities, went down the car road back in the 60s and 70s when we saw the need to develop a more modern transport system. So back in the day, we were no better than any other streets. And as we were doing so, the space, especially for people on bikes, started getting more scarce on our streets. And hence the attractiveness of this particular mode as a mode of transportation became less and less. But we have been going or stepping into a paradigm shift, and it's something that has caught people's attention. And of course, now when we're talking about creating a more safe and equitable transport system and an urban environment for people to move in, uh, artificial intelligence and autonomous cars, flying cars, and stuff like that are always on the menu. But as we told one Bloomberg City Lab author, not author, but reporter, David Sipper, the role of IT in reducing car crashes was pretty much zero. We simply slowed down cars. And alongside that, we of course have a very holistic city plan or city master plan, which is building upon our already prefabricated structure of dense and mixed land use that's interconnected with trunk lines for public transport, meaning that everything is reachable by a high-speed rail or metro or tram, and then the catchment areas of the nodes for these public transit stations are easily accessible by walking and cycling. We are not 100% finished yet. We still have a long way to go to really become a cycling capital, for example, but we are well underway. It's also embedded in our strategy. It's about embedding intelligent traffic solutions as the underpin of our smooth transport. And when we talk about intelligent traffic, as I stated earlier, we're not talking about flying cars, we're not talking about autonomous vehicles, we're talking about modes of transportation that move masses or that you power with your own muscles, so walking and cycling. And we're talking cycling in the utilitarian sense, just like the Dutch and the Danes do. And even before this, since the 70s, we've been systematically reducing car speeds on our street network. As you can see on the images on the right, since the 1970s, we've gone from a pretty dominant 50 km/h overall speed limit in the city down to uh, down to a very comprehensive 30 km/h speed limit zoning throughout the city at the end of 2019. What we still have to work on, however, is actually road dieting a lot of these streets to make the physical environment really promote these low speeds. So we're only about a quarter of the way there, but even so, the results are showing. So even with just reducing the speed limit, we've been able to dramatically reduce fatalities in traffic since the 1980s, going from a peak of about 35 deaths a year in 1983 down to just 3 in the recent years. And yes, 2019 was one of our golden years where not a single cyclist or pedestrian was killed in traffic. Of course, unfortunately, since then, these kinds of deaths have occurred, and each and every fatality is too much, but we've come a long way, but we still have a way to go. And one of the big methods, strategies that we're gonna use to make us go that additional mile per se to really reach that vision zero is our bicycle action plan or cycling strategy, with which we are a cycling capital in the making. And our vision in this cycling strategy is to make Helsinki a year-round cycling city fit for people of all ages and abilities, and in doing so, raising the model share of cycling from the current 10% to 20% by 2035. Now, this is the old goal, but with the expedition of our carbon neutrality plan stating that we need to, and us committing into becoming carbon neutral by 2030, also means that we now need to reach this model share target of 20% by 2030 as well. We have 5 sub goals to meet this vision, and the most obvious one is the A to B, direct and efficient routes, making every single destination in the city accessible by bike safely and efficiently, both for the 8 and the 80-year-old users. And then, of course, taking care of bicycle parking both at the origin and the destination to make sure that it's of ample amounts and ample quality to make sure that to prevent bike thefts to the best of our abilities. And since cities are growing almost like an organic organism, there's going to be work sites in the city going on at all times. We're going to make sure in the future that bicycle traffic is treated equally at work sites, meaning that anyone on a bike can also navigate their way through a construction site safely. And I noticed that I'm kind of jumping back and forth between not really going in consecutive order. I mentioned number 4, bicycle parking, because it's logical at the origin and destination. But back to number 2, as we're building these direct and efficient routes, we also need to make sure that we take good care of them year round, especially during the winter when it snows here. And 5th, but not the least thing, is communicating this change to the people, delivering a really concrete message in that it's not all about cycling. It's not about just cycling at all. It's about creating an equitable, vibrant, and a functional city for all its residents and visitors. And we're using Copenhagen as our main source of inspiration, both since it's a Nordic city, we can relate not really in language, but in culture and just general fabric of society and the fabric of the city itself. Now, we hear often, and this may sound ironic to you, but the southern tropical city of Copenhagen, of course, is a cycling city because it's always sunny and warm, and besides, it's flat. So I always like to show people this picture from the same exact spot on Queen Louise's Bridge during wintry conditions, which are identical sometimes to the wintry conditions here in Helsinki. And just to put the icing on that cake, I like to remind people here in Finland that it also snows in the tropical country of the Netherlands. Yes, I said tropical country of the Netherlands. So if the southern Danes and the tropical Dutch are not creeped up by the snow, why should us Finns who roll around in the snow naked be bore holes in the ice to go swimming in freezing water and think of that as normal? Why should we think of this as an extreme sport? So we strive on creating the exact same infrastructure in the city of Helsinki in intersections that we are accustomed to seeing in the Netherlands, we're accustomed to seeing in Copenhagen. We're building main streets, integrated complete streets with curb separated bicycle traffic, separated from car traffic, separated from pedestrians. And we're not just doing it in one place or another, we are doing it everywhere step by step. And we're also complementing all of this with a city-wide network of bicycle superhighways that's also connected to the neighboring communities. This is, of course, still under construction. And of course, since we do have winter, we do get snow, we are getting better at maintaining these routes so that in snowy conditions, when we reach our target, people will not need to put on winter tires on their bikes to be able to move around even in below freezing conditions. And the main focal point, which is of course only 1 out of 34 measures in our bicycle action plan, is implementing the network. We need to have a comprehensive, continuous, coherent network in order to build this fabric to attract people to move and to make it safe, and also to enable a functional communication between different users. as in interactions between different users in traffic. And currently, we have about 40 kilometers of the network already built in the inner city of Helsinki. We have another 30% of old style infrastructure that needs to be improved. And then the rest, over 50, 60 kilometers of bicycle infrastructure is completely missing that we need to build. And we are committed to doing this. And as we stand, we are committed to getting this complete either by complete street renewals or quick fixes by 2030, so in 7 years. And we've heard comments from foreign colleagues saying that, well, in Helsinki we have it easy because our streets are so wide. So this is just a little inspiration for especially my fellows in the United Kingdom. We have narrow streets as well. And implementing bicycle infrastructure, making a city cycling friendly and a cycling capital is not just about building cycle tracks. 80% of streets are shared streets in the Netherlands, in Copenhagen, for example, and so should they be in other cities. So if you don't have room for bicycle infrastructure, you probably don't need it. You can calm car traffic instead, and we're definitely doing that on our streets here in Helsinki. Unfortunately, this is all the time I have for you guys. I might already have gone a little over time. So on behalf of myself and our entire bicycle planning team, I thank you very much for having me here as a guest speaker. And I wish you the best of luck in the very important work you are doing over there in Haringey in London. Thank you very much.